Welcome back to the Tribal Lines podcast. My name is Pat Johnson, joined by my co-host.
Stephen Lupo. How's
He's
it going,
back.
man?
We're back. What is up? Thank you guys for your support. Sorry we took so long, but we took so long for a reason because we've been digging and we've been searching and we've been looking for someone to bring on the podcast for you guys to listen to, get some insight from maybe a Survivor player from the new era, Stephen?
Maybe even a Survivor winner from the new era.
A winner, chicken dinner. It would be great. He's hiding in plain sight, made it all the way to the end. It's the winner of Survivor 43, Mike Gabler.
Hey there, can you guys hear me?
Oh, we can hear you,
we
Mike.
can.
All right. What's going on, guys? How are you?
Alec Gabler is here.
Yes, sir. Get ready.
He just got Gablered.
You did. That's awesome. I
Thank
love
you
that.
so
It's
much.
great. It's a great meme. It works everywhere.
It was my lock screen for like a month.
That's awesome, guys. Now, where are you guys from?
So I reside in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia.
Very cool.
Long Island, New York for me.
Awesome. Well, I'm up here in Idaho in the great Northwest, and we're having some pretty good weather. Actually, it's running about 60 to 100 every day in the high desert. So not too bad in the mornings and evenings, but pretty spicy in the afternoon. But if you got a pool or a river, you're in good shape.
Yeah, my parents just bought a beach house, so I've been going down the shore a lot and cooled off a lot yesterday.
That is fantastic. That's a dream.
Yeah, they're living it.
Well, and you get to too. That's the best part.
Oh, it's the best perk. It's the best.
That's terrific.
Gabler, we thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Like a winner of Survivor, Stephen and I's favorite show, your favorite show, right?
Yeah.
And like
Absolutely.
for me, like me and Stephen met playing a live reality game, like in person, and it's like a day game of Survivor, and we were allies, and we met through that. And it's like Survivor brings people together, and we know how you feel about that as well. We saw it through the whole show. And like it's just been so great to like be able to like watch your journey, see what you did after the show, see what you did with the money. We're gonna get into all that stuff, but we want to take you back. Stephen, take us back.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know about like how you became to love Survivor. If you could walk us through the casting process that you went through, what you did for your audition tape. Was it a difficult process? All that good stuff.
You bet. No, those are great questions. I mean, so I've been a fan of the show since reality TV shows just started, right? Because that was kind of a new genre that started about 20, 25 years ago. And Survivor was one that kind of captures the imagination of everybody, right? You're stranded on an island with just clothes on your back with strangers, and you got to make it all work. So, and then of course the cast of characters over the multiple decades now that the show's been on has really added depth and a lot of color to that. You know, I think going back to what Pat said before is I love Survivor because what's different about it and unique about it is it's very flat. Everybody is a Survivor fan, and every once in a while a fan gets to play, which is very different than say, you know, football. Like, you know, I may be a Jets fan, but I'm never going to get to play like Aaron Rodgers. I'm never going to get to do that, right? That's just something that's not going to happen. Right. So, and only a tiny few people get to do that. Whereas with Survivor, you two could be on it. Anybody listening to my voice right now could be on it. You just never know. So that's what's really exciting about it. And as I've learned after being on the show, I run into people all the time. I still do, which is amazing. And I think it's because it's in syndication and streaming that people are watching Survivor 43 today, right now, for the first time.
My sister included.
Well, there you go. Your sister included, right?
Yeah, she's rooting for you, Gabler.
Oh, well, good. Well, don't tell her. Let
No
her find out what happened.
No spoilers.
You know, but I think that's what's really special about it. So we started watching it. My wife and I were watching it. And then, you know, we were having our kids about that time. So we missed a couple of years while they were really little. Then we kind of went back and started watching them again. And we kind of made Survivor night like our family dinner night, where we would all, you know, sit down, make a nice meal. And then we're the type of family that watches with a pause button where, you know, you're watching it, and you pause it, and you go, okay, all right. Okay, Stephen, you know, Pat, what do you think is going to happen now? What do you think Yam Yam's going to do or whatever else? and then we go forward and play it. So it's been fun. I always said I was going to be on the show one day, and I said I was going to apply before I turned 50 years old. So I was about 49 years old in 10 months, and my wife kind of gave me a little nudge and said, hey, you're going to be 50 in about 3 weeks. I'm like, all right. So I got up early the next day, got my camera and a GoPro, and put a 3-minute video together. If you Google Gabler Survivor, my audition video pops
Oh,
up.
I've
It's
seen
having
it.
yeah, so it's pretty lively, right? It kind of punches you in the face with energy, and it tells a story. It goes back and forth, and it's I think anybody that's putting together an audition video, you don't have to have all the fanfare that I had in mind, but I don't think it hurts either, because you got to imagine somebody is sitting in a room. They get 25,000 applicants every season. And there's somebody that has to sit in a room, probably reads 1,000 of those things, and then they kick up their favorite 100 to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, gets all the way to Jeff. So you want to have something memorable. Now, that said, there has been lots of people like Carla, Wendell, people who have been at their kitchen table, who just literally are sitting there like we're talking now, and they say, look, this is why I think I could be on Survivor. And they get the shot. You just never know what the producers are looking for or when they're looking for it. So I always say, life is short, life is now. You got to live it. So if you even think you want to do it, take a shot at it. Why not?
Yeah, man. That's awesome. I really appreciate that answer, Gabler. Thank you.
And so after you got the call from Jeff or whatever producer you got the call from, like what was going through your mind there? And also just like what were the steps that went after that in order from the time you got the call to the time you eventually got told you were going to be cast for Survivor?
Sure. So my birthday is in September. So I made the video the last week of August, sent it in. And honestly, I wasn't expecting to hear anything from anybody because, I'm a fan of the show. It's long odds. I just figured I was going to do it for myself, my friends and family, because we're all big Survivor fans. And that was my goal. If it went further, great. But that was going to be my goal. So about mid-October, I get a phone. You get all these spam phone calls on your phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's this 310 number that keeps calling me? I work in the hospital. I'm pretty busy. And I'm just let it go to voicemail. 3 days in a row, I get this 310 call. I was bored in between cases. So I listened to the voicemail, and it's like, Gabler, this is Survivor. Call us back. And my first thought was, it was a lady's voice. And I'm like, my first thought is, okay, which one of my buddies' wives got put up to prank me on this, because I don't believe it. But then I called the number back, and holy smokes, it was one of the producers, and she was amazing. She's like, look, we loved your video. We want to set you up with a Zoom call, because COVID was going on during all this too. They used to do live interviews. Mm-hmm. Now they probably still do the Zoom thing because it was pretty effective and you can cover a lot of ground versus flying people around. But it was also, not being in person, even though like we're interacting now, we can see each other. It's not quite the same as when you're literally there. So I had to kind of overcome that on the Zoom call that I did with the producers. And it looks kind of like this, except there was about 9 of them. And they basically come on, they're pretty cool. They're just like asking you a bunch of questions, and you just answer it. You be you, but be you on a good day. And then that went well. And then they had another round with the producers. And then I got this call that said, hey, Jeff Probst is going to FaceTime you on Thursday. What time's good? Well, we do surgery on Thursdays. So I was trying to put it in between I was trying to figure out, okay, I think I'll be done by 9:00. Let's do that. We should be done by 9:00. We're going to start at 7:30. Should be good. So of course it's running long. And I really wanted to be in like a quiet place in the hospital and be like, close the doors, all that stuff. Never works out that way.
No.
So my phone all of a sudden goes off, and I was just walking out of the room. I'm in my scrub still, my surgical bonnet and stuff, and And lo and behold, there's Jeff. So I'm like, hey, what's up, Jeff? How are you doing? And then there's all these people coming out of the operating room. We just finished this case. It was a transcarotid case where we went down through the carotid artery to get to the heart valve. And people are like, slapping me on the back, high fiving because the case went well. And I'm just like, okay, go out. There's an important call here, important call. And then people figured out what they're like. Is that Jeff Probst? And I'm like, no, just go, because we're not supposed to tell anybody anything, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to hide it. But it was pretty funny. Jeff is a really great guy. He is exactly how he comes off on TV. When you first meet him, and every time I've ever met him throughout the whole show, even on the island, he's exactly how he comes off. He's a really nice guy. He's Survivor's #1 fan. And he's just really cool. So he was asking me, Gabler, how do you do with pressure, dealing under pressure? I go, well, they're sewing up the guy's neck on the other side of this wall that we just did a transcarotid procedure on. And I'm talking to Jeff Probst. So I don't know, man. I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah. I mean, my heart would be like, was yours going a mile a minute?
It was. I was still a little bit like, okay, that's amazing. And I think I even have a picture of me with let me see if I can find this here. I think I've got a picture of Jeff on the FaceTime because I was like, hey man, can I take a screenshot? Yes, I do. I have it right here. Can I take a screenshot of you in there? So he made kind of a face, and there he is.
That's awesome.
You see me with my surgical hat on?
Yeah.
And then there's Jeff right there. So that was it. That was on November 19th, 2020.
Wow.
So October, I got some calls. I did a couple of interviews. They got the Jeff call. And then what was interesting was because one of the seasons got canceled because of COVID and all that nonsense. So instead of putting me to the front of the line, because they had 20 castaways set aside for season 42. And instead of not using those guys, Jeff did the right thing and Survivor did the right thing. And they said, look, these people have already been through the process. Their season got punted because of the pandemic. So we're going to put them to the front of the line. But don't worry, Gabler. We're going to call you back in a year and see if you're still interested. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not what I wanted to hear. I'm right there,
Life in the heart.
So it was very hard to hear that because I was like, oh, no, man, because I want, you got to strike while the iron's hot, right? And they were interested and I wanted to do it. But hey, Survivor, they do what's right. I mean, look what happened with Bruce on season 44.
Right.
Remember, he was trying to go under that log thing, smacked his head, got a concussion, but he was trying as hard as he could. So what did Jeff do in Survivor? They put him in 45. So
I loved that news. It was great.
Me too.
Yeah. Great to see that get another shot because that's tragic. You
don't want somebody to get all the way out there and giving 100%. I mean, Bruce was. I mean, I'm cheering for Bruce. I've met Bruce. Bruce is a great guy.
Sure. Yeah. I'm cheering.
There are some really cool people out there, but so with us, they said, okay, look, you're going to wait a year. You're going to potentially be on 43, and I said, all right, well, call me back in August of 22 of 21. Call me back in August of 21. And then they did. And then obviously everything happened there from there on. But it was quite an odyssey. There's a lot of exams you take. There's a lot of you get on with 2 different psychologists because they Survivor wants to have crazy people on the show, but not crazy people on the show, right? Because you're on an island with it can be dangerous. So they do screen you for that, and then it's all quiet. You don't know until you show up.
Yeah. Wow. That's an incredible process, though. I'm like, that's something that only a certain amount of people are ever going to experience. You're one of those people, and you won Survivor 43, and it's just like, do you still wake up and just it probably takes so long to soak in,
It really is. I mean, it truly is because like you guys, I'm a fan of the show.
Exactly.
And imagine yourselves 20 years from now, watching the show continuously the whole time. Yeah. And then I was with one of my college roommates. I was riding in the car with him a couple months ago, and he starts laughing, and I'm like, what are you laughing at, dude? And he's like, I can't believe you freaking won Survivor. And I'm like, I can't either. I can't either. It's unbelievable. So
Yeah.
it's very surreal, but it's very real. It did happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna, I've said this in previous podcasts. Like, I did call it.
Good for you, man. I mean, it was, you know, it was an interesting one because it's the ultimate test of your social skills, of your, your mental, physical, emotional. You're checking all those boxes because, you're out there. I mean, on day one, you're super dehydrated, you're sunburned, you're sandy, you're dirty, you're wet, you're cold, you're freaked out. There's not a friend on the island yet. And even then, when they do become friends, it's like, well, we're friends, but are we really friends?
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that right now, today, every single person on Survivor, at least my season, we're all very good friends. I just got a text we have a Baca text. It's just
Oh,
Baca. Um,
I love
Janine's
both of
planning to
them.
move to New York. Ellie just had a baby. Mariah just got married. Sammy's going to meet me
Wow.
next month in Hawaii. We're going to go see Cody and go surfing for 5 days.
Oh,
That's awesome.
I mean, that's what Survivor was. Not just an amazing experience for me personally to go deep into myself and to grow as a person, but I made these amazing friendships with everybody on there, and I mean that's priceless right there. And then just to have that experience was pretty cool, and then to have an experience that's really big that everybody that watches it gets to go on, minus the starvation. But you get
yeah,
to go. You were on the same journey with me. You were there. Maybe even it was probably even more anxious watching it than
it
even
was.
living it at times.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it was a joy to watch 43. I loved all the seasons in the new era have been phenomenal. Like, there's, people have their opinions. Like it's all Survivor for me, right? So it's
Me
all
too.
if it's Survivor, it's good. So it's
I
like,
agree.
yeah.
Mhm.
So Steven, you want to kind of like talk with Gabler, ask him some things about
Yeah, definitely.
43 and the game itself and your specific game and some people out there that were hanging with you and starving with you and dehydrated with you and we all know how
Yeah,
it came
yeah.
out.
I also wanted to say that pre-game, preseason for Survivor 43, I was watching podcasts that were talking about like interviews you done or like the application being put out online. And one of the questions, which after I saw the answer, I was like, oh my God, I'm a huge Gabler fan. Like before it even started, it
I
was
already
the
know.
question was why do you think you can win Survivor? Why do you think you will win Survivor? And your answer was yes.
I remember it.
I love it. So yeah, just talk a little bit about that, like why you put that, like, and your thought process behind that. I thought that was hilarious.
That's why he was my winner pick.
Yep, that exactly. Same with me. I drafted you in my fantasy team.
you know, I was thinking about it. I was going to put this long answer in there, and I just am like, no, I'm going to win it. I know I'm gonna do because everything that I had. In fact, like this is no one's ever really heard this before, but in the hotel. So when we flew to Los Angeles before we went to Fiji, they sequester you in a hotel for 3 days. Part of it was COVID. Part of it's just that's what Survivor does. You're not allowed to leave your room. You are like locked in your room. You get a knock on the door 3 times a day with your meals. They show up. You get your food. You go back inside your room and you just stay there. I would walk back and forth in my room, back and forth in my room, do push-ups, whatever. You just kind of you're just in solitary confinement almost in there. You were allowed to get out one time during the morning. There was a Starbucks in the lobby, but there were casting directors all around that were like the hall monitors, and you're not allowed to talk to anybody just in case they're on the show because it wouldn't be like, hey, what's your name? Oh, Steven. Hey, I'm Gabler. Nice to meet you. Oh, hey, what's up, Pat? And then all of a sudden we're on the island. It was like, oh, we already had a little connection. And they're really adamant about nobody talks to anybody. So I would go down there in the morning and get a cup of decaf tea because I had already weaned myself off of coffee and everything a couple months before going on the show because I didn't want to get the caffeine headaches or anything else. So I was doing that. But for the most part, you're in your room. And I had on my hotel room desk, I have a 30-page outline with the Gabler strategy on it. I had about this many note cards with different types of, persuasion, um, verbal judo type stuff, and ways to just kind of go about it. And then thinking about how I was going to do it, because my strategy was broken down into three ways. One was the beginning, beginning, middle, end, obviously, but it was like, if I can get to the middle, I'll get to the end. If I get to the end, I will win. But getting to the middle is just as hard as getting to the end. It's no easier getting to the middle than it is getting to the end. Right. So the whole thing, especially in the new era, you're shot out of a cannon and it doesn't stop. So, I was looking at it myself. I'm a pretty big guy. I kind of shaved my head down, so that looks a little extreme. I've got a bunch of tattoos on me, and my resting face isn't always as friendly as when I'm engaged with people right now. So, I could be just sitting there, and my daughters were great, because they said, look, you're going to have to manage your nonverbal before you get into the game, because again, we see each other in the lobby of the hotel when we're flying to Fiji. We're together in the pregame. The pre-survivor boot camp lasts about a week. You're not allowed to talk to anybody. So everybody's just looking at each other. So I was like, okay, what am I going to wear during the pregame? Because the game is actually on, even though we're not talking to each other. You're looking at each other. You're sizing people up. You're writing notes down. You're doing all this stuff. So you're just here at the Ponderosa waiting for the game to start. And I'm like, okay, don't wear my Slayer shirt. Wear tie-dye. What's friendlier than tie-dye? Nothing. So I was like, that's going to be perfect. And, I was always like the happy eyes. Even though we had to wear masks and stuff, I was always like happy eyes, so that, people saw me. They're like, oh, he might be a nice guy. I don't know. But at least it wasn't like big Viking scary guy. Could be, wanted to be sure that everybody was like, oh, he's a happy guy. It's a good guy. I was kind of taking the Rupert vibe if I could. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's what I was doing a little bit there in the pregame, as well as getting my strategy ready.
Okay, awesome. And so walk me through an average day on the island. So like, how much time did you spend just laying around? How much time did you spend socializing? How much strategizing time did you have? And were you strategizing with people for long periods of time? Were there more short periods of time? Stuff like that.
Every day was a mixed bag, because the weather depended on it. The challenges always take place between 12 and 3 p.m. So they're always at 12 and 3 p.m. because the lighting is the best for that. Mm-hmm. But it's also the hottest time of the day. It was brutally hot when we had to go compete at those things. So an average day is, you wake up. Well, you never sleep soundly, because if you sleep on the beach, there's crabs that are crawling around you. Those little ghost crabs were everywhere. And if you were in the shelter on the bamboo, you'd lay there until your arm fell asleep. Then you'd wake up and you'd flip over and sleep till the other arm fell asleep. Then you'd wake over till Owen kicked me in the face or something, or we would do, because I slept right next to Owen, and actually with me usually kicking Owen. He was a great sleep mate. He was a saint, because I was a mover and shaker at night, and he was I was like, man, I was up all night. He was like, I know. So he never complained. He's the nicest guy. Yeah. So but a normal day, you wake up when the sun comes up, and I'd go down to the beach, and you're cold, because even in Fiji, it probably gets to at night, gets, low 80s at night, and there's a breeze coming through. So, you're 98 degrees, but you're always wet. So, you're kind of damp and wet. At night, sun goes down, starts to cool off, and by the time the sun comes up, you're cold. So we'd crawl out to the beach, watch the sun come up. We had about half an hour before it got hot. So you kind of enjoy that time, sit there, wake up, drink some water, and then it would start to get warm. And then post-merge, every morning me and Cody would walk down the beach, have a quick powwow, like 2 minutes. Like on the beach, because we didn't want anybody to know ride or die was going on. So we'd walk down the beach to do some stretches. And if you were together, they would film you. But if you walked off by yourselves, there's just a drone would follow you around. So we would do a beach swim every day. So I would walk down the beach with Cody. We would be talking, and they'd film us. They'd be walking with the camera crew, and we would talk some strategy. And he would update me on some things, and then I would give him some other updates and whatnot. And then I would go. He'd go swim. I'd go swim. We'd come back to camp. Then I would peel off and find Jesse one-on-one again when nobody was watching, because nobody knew about that relationship. And then I would kind of let him know kind of what's going on with Cody. He knew he was talking to Cody. There's a lot of secret, quiet conversations going on like all the time. So that was really busy. We didn't have a lot of downtime. There'd be a few hours in the day where you could rest, but you'd almost rest at your own detriment, because the longer you were resting or trying to take a nap or whatever, I mean, the game's going on. It doesn't stop. So, the only thing I would do though in the morning, so get up in the morning, warm up, walk down the beach, do some little bit of strategizing. Then I would typically eat a coconut and rest, because at noon we'd be competing.
Yeah.
So then I would be all ready. Then after that, we'd get back to our island where we lived, and we would have, then the game's on, and you really don't want to be laying around during that.
Yeah.
And then once in a while, they would come up to you. The producers would be like, they just look at you like, Pat, and you're going to go on a one of those confessionals, and they would pull you, and you never knew when that was going to be, but they would tell you, they give you a 10-minute notice, and then you'd go, and you'd walk a couple hundred yards down the beach to some pretty cool looking, very uncomfortable perch that they would put you in to do your interviews so nobody could hear you. But while you were there, the game was going on back there. And sometimes you'd come back and then it was time to go to tribal council. And that was the worst, because you'd have the plan you had when you left, because your confessionals would take about an hour. You'd go talk down the beach for an hour. So you're gone for an hour. You come back and it's like lockdown. We're going to tribal council. And I'm like, what happened while I was gone the last hour? And you'd kind of be looking at people in your alliance and seeing if there was anything, like if you're getting the weird eyes from somebody,
Yeah.
like, okay, something went down. I got to figure it out during tribal council. And so, and then we get back, we'd like to eat before it got dark.
Mhm.
And then we just kind of sit around. There was a lot of talking though, and a lot of strategy. And I mean, we were always looking for stuff. It just, it was just like you'd think it would be.
Was there multiple people getting confessionals at the same time if they all each took an hour, or were they one at a time?
One at a time.
And how long would it normally be strategizing time in between getting back from the challenge and having to go to tribal?
Usually at about 5 hours.
Okay.
So you get back at 3, you take off to tribal around, 8 o'clock and, 7 or 8 o'clock. And then tribal would go from 8 to 10, and then you take the boat back to our island, and you're not allowed to talk on the boat rides. So but that actually worked to my benefit, I thought, maybe other people's too, because a lot of stuff would happen at every tribal, and you could then sit back and compose yourself and process everything. So when you hit the beach and you were allowed to talk again, you were ready. You knew who you had to talk to, you knew what you needed to say, all that kind of stuff.
Gabler, we know that, we only see an hour a week of Survivor. We wish we could see more. We don't have live feeds like Big Brother, right? So we don't get to see everything that's going on 24/7. What's something in, that didn't make the edit that you wish made the edit? Because I'm sure you thought about that.
Oh yeah, I know. Great question. There's so much going on because they film you 24 hours a day. There's camera crews, there's hidden cameras in the jungle, there are drones flying over. And I'm excited because next season 45, they're supposed to do 90-minute episodes, that could make all the difference, really. It should be great because there's little things that get left off. And for example, just one easy one. James was in the hot seat at one point when I still had my idol, and he asked me if I would give it to him, and I shook his hand and said I would, and then I came back to him right before tribal council, and it was the Ellie vote out, and I'm like, James, I can't give it to you because if I have to be sitting next to Janine, and I got to be able to show her my fake idol, or no, not my fake idol. I had to show her my real idol so she wouldn't play her idol. because if she thinks I'm going to play it for you, she's going to play hers for Ellie. And all of that didn't get seen. So that would have showed layers of not just my relationship with James, which was really wasn't shown at all on the season, but also would have shown some of the, I don't know, trickery and some of the Survivor stuff that we were doing, because we were there, and Janine was like, Gabler, are you going to vote with us? And I was not, but you also have to kind of go along with things, and in the show, and I literally in tribal council, I pulled out my idol and I showed it to Janine so that she would feel comfortable not playing her idol for Ellie. And then that blindside was able to happen. That was one. And then another nice thing that happened though was, so I was missing my older daughter's prom. It was her senior prom. And I'd been counting the days in my head on the island and figured out like, okay, tonight, so it was like the morning, tonight's their prom day. I kind of was figuring it out. And I was kind of bummed out because, I missed a lot of stuff when they were growing up, and just one more thing to miss. Obviously she understood and it was cool, but Ellie knew I was down, and she said, hey, why don't we do like a Baca prom night tonight? And me and Ellie went looking for snails. Janine went looking for hermit crabs, and Sammy and Owen got a fire going, and we had a nice little dinner, if you will. And then we danced on the beach under the stars, just our little Baca crew. So there's a lot left out that I think fans would love to see. And that's why I'm so pumped up about the 90-minute episodes, because there's some gold that's been left out there that would not only add some color and a little bit more context to the overall show, but also shows a little bit more strategy and things that are going on, and relationships that are there. Even though Ellie and I were, rivals during 43, we always cared for each other. It's a game, right? You're playing. I mean, you and Steven are great friends, but if you're on Survivor on the beach and it gets down to it, at some point, even you guys are going to have to go, okay.
Hey, and when he went out, I didn't vote him out.
Yep.
Right on.
Pat made it to the end. I voted for him to win. He got second, but
I lost Dominic Abate style. I lost in the tiebreaker.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but it was my first one. It was fun, and it was certainly a great time. And something that I love that you just mentioned, Gabler, was, we didn't really see much of your relationship with James. And I feel like something we found out more towards the end was how socially, strategically, and maybe, emotionally and intellectually you were in with everybody. You were in with everybody. You had a path to the end since the merge, I felt like. And
I had several paths to the end. In fact, Karma asked me, it was one of the final tribal council. I don't know whether this was on the show or not. Maybe it was. I haven't watched it in a long time, but she did ask one of the questions, because that final tribal council was like 2.5 hours long. It's really long. Even though, it's like, half hour on the show. It's like, it was really long. But she was like, Gabler, why should I vote for you, and why was your game better than mine? Because she got down to 5, right? She was number 5. And I looked her straight in the eye and I said, look, when we had 10, I had 3 ways to get to 3. When we were at 7,
I loved when you said that. Yeah, you talked about all your numbers.
It's very true. It's like I had more ways to get there than you. And she was like, she kind of thought about it, and she was like, yeah, that's true. I believe that, because, you don't, when you're at Final Tribal, you have to own your game. Mm-hmm. Whatever it was, you have to own it. And if you don't, then, or if you over claim your game, that'll burn you, because people are like, no, that's not true. This didn't happen. And then, you lose your credibility. So I knew that credibility and trust is the currency of Survivor. So I wanted to be as transparent and honest as I could be at Tribal Council, Final Tribal Council, with all of the potential votes, so that everybody knew where I was coming from and what I had done. And when I was telling it to them, I could tell it was resonating with them, because they were nodding and they were like, yes, that's right. We did talk about that, or, oh yeah, I remember that, or he did do that. So that was pretty helpful too, I thought.
That's awesome. Like that leads exactly into what I was going to ask you next. Like at which point in the game did you think to yourself, like for real, like I have this way of getting to the end. I have multiple ways of getting to the end. Was it from day one where you were going to play your shot in the dark and all that jazz? Or is it like the merge? Like, was there a point in the game where you're like, I can not only get to the end, but I can actually win this game?
You know, you never know when you're feeling confident if you're being fooled or whether it's really true. Like I
Yeah.
felt really comfortable throughout much of the game. Because of the relationships I had in the various alliances, I had a lot of information going through me. So people, even though there were two or three rivalries on the beach, I was in the middle of all of that. And the information was coming through me, and I wasn't hearing my name. I was not here. I was helping. If it was coming up, I would sidestep it and kind of throw something out there, planting seeds as delicately as I could. Everybody on that beach playing 43, they're huge Survivor fans. They're super smart people. And we had to be careful. If you were too obvious pushing a narrative, you would lose your credibility, and people would go, is Pat, why does Pat keep saying that? Why does Pat keep bringing that? You had to be very, very delicate, because in the modern era, we all know how to play the game. In fact, you brought up something really great, which is my shot in the dark, which is right here on my desk. Let's see if
Oh,
I turn on the
wow.
light. You can see that better. Let's see. There it is.
Um,
You see that? That's what it looks like.
That's
That's the
awesome.
actual guy right there. And I
that's
guess
awesome.
I got to keep it because I was since I was the last one off the island, kind of, that we got to go. I went home the next day. I left the beach, the game, and we left for home the next day. When I played this, it was an interesting play. It's early in the season, which it was a little bit clumsy. I will admit that it was a little clumsy to put yourself out there as a target. But I work in the operating room, like I said earlier, and we have a tremendous amount of accountability in there. So that is culturally where I come from. And it's like if I was part of that loss, Mariah tried her hardest on there. She was not the weakest link either. She was not. But we're trying to figure out, somebody had to go home. That's the problem when you have three small tribes.
Right.
We all liked each other. We were all valuable, but somebody's got to go. And the reason her name kind of came up wasn't because she wasn't the most athletic, because she crossed that balance beam on her own. She battled all the way through. She had mud, blood all over her. She was awesome. But in those early days, when we were walking down the beach, you say to Ellie, I go, hey, is there anything I can do to help you in the game? You let me know. And she's like, you bet. If there's anything I can do, you let me know, and I'll let you know if I hear your name. Little conversations like that I had with Ellie, with Janine, with Sammy, and Owen. And I tried to have one with Mariah, and I mentioned it, and she's like, she's so positive. She's the rainbow queen. She's like, we're not even going to talk like that. We're going to win. We're going to win. I'm like, well, what if we don't even talk like that? So I'm like, okay. So because of her stance not to talk strategy on day one, which I totally get, that was like the tiniest reason
And
that
that's all it
people
needs
weren't
sometimes.
sure. They just weren't connected. They weren't they liked her and they valued her, but she didn't have those strings with other people that the
Right.
rest of us did. And that's how that vote went down. But when we were in there playing, to try to figure out what to do, we lost that big challenge, the first challenge, which was brutal and heartbreaking, because we're like, oh my God, are we going to be that tribe? And then we went on a winning streak to the end, obviously. But I came back, I went on that journey, I got that idol for me. I
Yeah.
thought about, do I lie about it? Because we've all seen people lie about, oh, I came back from challenge and I didn't get anything, and everyone's like, I don't know that I believe that. So I wanted to be as transparent and truthful as I could be, especially early on, to build trust with my tribe mates. So what did I do? I came back and I'm like, guys, I went on the journey. I risked my vote, and I went for it with this idol. They told me I've got to go walk down the beach by myself and read it, and then I'm going to come right back here. You guys watch me. I'm going to come right back here, and I'm going to have you read it to yourself. And then, of course, I read it. I got the idol. I did my big
Yeah.
Yeah.
mouth, and then they all knew. And then I came back. I handed them the note. I handed them the bracelet so they could all see it. And that was a good bond for us. Then we went to the challenge and we lost. And I played a role in the loss. We all did. I mean, everybody had their own role. But I was like, look, I'm not going to hide behind my idol. I'm going to play my shot in the dark instead. Now, just think about it as Survivor fans. I'm not going to hide behind my idol. I was truthful with my idol. I was good in the challenge also. I wasn't like the sole reason we lost, but I was good in the challenge. I was truthful about my idol. So people were like, okay, he's a legit guy. And then what happens if there's 6 people and one person says they're going to play their shot in the dark? Are you going to vote for that person on the first tribal council?
No, yeah.
No, you're not. You're not going to vote for him because there's a chance I could be immune and that would go back on them. And they're like, oh my God, I could blow up the whole game on that one. And I was going to do it. But Ellie called me, looked at me, you know, she gave me this look like like a mom look, you know, where she's like, you know, and I was like, okay. And then she pulls me aside. She goes, look, we need your vote. Stay with us. We need you. And you're a big guy. We need you in the challenges coming up here. It's not going to be you. And then, you know, what do you think? Who do you think it could be if it's not you? And I was like, well, you know, we all kind of talked about in a round robin sense, like, well, the one person that we're not sure about, because Ellie was like, who do you have a relationship with? I'm like, well, I've got a relationship with Sammy. I think I've got one with Owen. I think I've got one with Janine. I've got one with you because I did. So the 3 of us were tight, and then she was tight with Janine, and then I was tight with Owen also, and so was Sammy. So we ended up voting 5-1 for Mariah. But that's kind of how that went down, and it was a strategic play early in the game to build trust and to also build my reputation within the tribe as being a stand-up person, that I was able to build on that every day after that.
That's incredible. And you were able to not only do that and survive that first vote and be able to socially integrate yourself and make people like you and be necessary for the tribe, and you made it all the way to the end. You end up donating your whole prize. Steven's going to touch on that in a second, but I got one last question for you, Gabler, like something I would love to know. So if you were called back for a returnee season in the future, who is one player, not from 43, but from 41, 42, or 44 that you would hope would be on, you know, the same season as you? Who's like one person from the new era that you know, think would be fun to play with?
Oh, wow. That's a big question.
I'm sure there's more than one. So no one. Yeah.
I mean, I would love to play with Yam, Mike, Carolyn. I mean, golly, you know, Helen, even though Helen didn't get as far, she's really cool. She's smart. There's a reason she didn't get far. I call it the Michaela effect, where, you know, sometimes you're just too damn good too early and people are like, nope. Yeah. You know, and that's with Helen, because she was just a pistol. You know, Xander, there's some good dude. You know what?
Great casting.
There's nobody, Deshaun. I mean, there's nobody I would not be on with, because I mean, Deshaun was awesome. Evie, the strength of my game, one of the strengths, is my relationship game, and I truly enjoy people, getting to know all types of people, different from me, and the more different, the better sometimes, because you can just, you know, I'm like, you're on this beach with me, you're 20 years, 30 years younger. You're from a part of the country I may or may not know. I'm like, how did you get here? Who are you? What are you about? And I'm genuinely interested in that, which is why I've got relationships to this day with everybody, because I've got to know people well. And I think that's my life strategy as well as my survivor strategy, is like, you know, if you're going to meet someone, don't take anybody for granted. Appreciate everybody. Whether, like, anytime I go to a restaurant, whenever the waiter or waitress comes over, the first thing I ask them is their name, because I want to know, like, who's taking care of us tonight. Okay, Pat, how are you? I'm Gabler. This is my family. Whatever. We start talking. So I like to know people. It's it's something that it's how I was raised. I guess I'm also just a person of the world. I've lived around the world, and I'm always fascinated by everybody's story because everybody's got one. And if they're willing to share it with me, then I'm thrilled. So
That's
that,
awesome.
so whoever played, if I ever played again, whether it's Boston Rob, Sandra,
Doesn't matter.
Rupert, doesn't matter. I'm going to be
Right.
super geeked out no matter who it is.
Oh,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
And I love that you said
And
that, Gabler. Like, because you nailed it. You were like, you have to be yourself when you're playing this game. Sometimes you have to, downplay yourself. Sometimes you have to amplify yourself, but you have to play this game as yourself. And I think that you did that, and that's something that every fan can appreciate.
I think it's a good point, Pat, because you're so hungry and you're so tired, your full brain is not there, right? You're like, and I thought about, like, when I was coming on, I was like, am I going to be a heart valve specialist? Do I say that? Because I don't know, maybe that's going to be bad. I thought about telling everybody I was a fancy plumber because I do deal with leaky valves and
You wouldn't be
vasculature.
lying.
yeah,
And I was like, you know what? There's gonna be a time one day when I'm gonna start talking about the operating room, and they're gonna be like, what do you mean? You said you were a plumber. I'm not lying, but I'm not telling the truth either. And I was like, don't do that. Just say exactly who you are, be you, and just be true to yourself. And it's because, if you're not lying, you don't have to make up stories and you don't have to keep track of your stories. There's a lot to keep track of in Survivor, anyways. So if you have too many stories like the telenovela or there's too many people out there, and once it gets undone, then it's like it can fall apart pretty darn fast, as we've seen many times on that show.
You're right.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, just like Pat talked on a little bit before, how you're the first person to donate the entire $1 million to charity. I wanted to give you the floor just to talk about like why you did what you did, the charity that you donated to, and whatever you would like to say about that.
You bet. Thank you, Stephen. So we talked about that before I went off to do the show. So I talked about it with my wife, and I had a college roommate of mine who's a veteran, and he was the same guy I was telling you about earlier that we were driving the car together. He's laughing. He goes, "How did you get on that show? Let alone win?" It was hilarious. But so he was, we were like, "Well, what happens if you win?" And he's like, "Oh, you're never going to win, because it's your buddy. You're never, your buddy's going to talk stuff." So he's like, "Well, what if you do win?" He goes, what should we do with the money?" And we thought about some funny things to start with at first, like get a giant, blimp, rent it, fly over Boise, throwing donuts out the window, whatever. I mean, it's just dumb stuff. And then we were like, what if we did something really important with the money? And right when we said that, we started thinking about it. And, I come from a military family. I never served myself, but it's my honor to serve those who served us, and to be able to pay it forward in a profound way would be important. I thought about it first, doing half or whatever else, because we could all use more money. I've got two, one kid in college, one's going to go soon. There's always something, house payments. But when I think about the veteran community and how the 1% protects the 99% of us, and how when they come home, sometimes they don't come all the way home, and they need our help. And if I can draw attention to that and use my 15 minutes to help promote that and promote awareness. And, my granddad used to say, talk is cheap, takes money to buy whiskey. And, by putting my $1 million where my mouth was important, because, you could say something and, I could have said, let's take care of our veterans, but I'm going to take care of our veterans. And if anybody else wants to, then that's great too. And because of that, it's been a catalyst for so much awareness, and so many people are being helped. I came back from the show 30 pounds light, and my wife saw me, and I was never that small. I was like junior in high school last time I weighed that much. And so she's like, looks at me, and I'm like, I won. And she's like, oh my gosh. And I go, I hope you're okay with what we talked about too, because I also did that. We donated all the money, because she was in on that also.
Yeah.
And so we created this thing called a donor advised fund ahead of us getting the check in December. Last summer, we created the donor advised fund with an accounting group so we could maximize our donations and minimize taxation. So every dollar that goes into it, the full $1 million went into there. I literally cannot buy a glass of water from that. Everything has to go to a 501(c) charity. So to date, we've donated about $600,000 out of that fund. We have about 375,000 more to go. We've donated to help some groups that work with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, with anxiety, depression, addiction, and of course, suicide prevention, because the rates for our service members, this is a true statistic, 22 veterans a day take their own lives.
Right.
More of them die by suicide than in battle. That is a huge problem. We need to address this. We're losing too many valuable people and heroes. They don't like to be called heroes, but they are.
Right.
And
Of course.
to be able to help them out is very important to me and my family. And I'm grateful to Survivor for that opportunity. And I'm just, I'm so, I just overwhelmed with I've donated the $1 million, but I've gotten $10 million of goodwill back from it. And, it's an example of what we all as Americans need to do for our country to help our neighbors and our people. We've been divided too long. It's all bullshit. I just, this old red, blue, whatever. We're all Americans. We need to get together, look at what's good within each other, and move forward from there, because there's way more good. There's way more positive things going on in our country with people like you, like me, many, many, many examples. And, yet somehow a lot of the negative stuff is on the front pages. Let's put the good stuff on the front pages. Let's get people inspired to help out people. And that's what I was trying to do with that donation, as well as help a lot of people with it, which a lot of people are being helped with that money. I mean, a lot of people are being helped with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so nice what you did. And I know all the veterans out there are so thankful.
Yeah, I've been absolutely inspired, from what, even before talking to you face to face, like watching you on the screen, seeing what you did, with the money. Like, I'm a case manager. I work in disability services, but I've worked in behavior counseling, and I've, dealt with anxiety, depression, PTSD with a lot of my clients. And you've touched me, Gabler, on behalf of the Tribe Alliance podcast. We would like to donate to what you have been donating to as well. And we will touch base afterwards and communicate about that and how I can do that. But on behalf of us, we would love to donate to your cause as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Thank you guys so much. That's incredible. There's so many great organizations that we've been a part of. We've broken them down into several different groups of them. One of them is Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions.
Okay.
They're a terrific group. They're working with on the front lines right now with psychedelics, helping veterans. And Marcus Luttrell, if you guys are familiar with him or saw the movie Lone Survivor. So Marcus Luttrell was the Navy SEAL that survived. He was the one guy from Operation Red Wings who survived that terrible ordeal. Not only was he shot up many times and he fell down the side of a mountain and broke a lot of bones, but he had to bear witness to the horrors of war on multiple deployments. And he came back and he was having a real hard time. Him and his twin brother, Morgan Luttrell, who's a U.S. congressman right now from Texas. They're twin brothers, both 6'5". I'm really glad they're on our side because they are big, and I would not want to be in front of them if they were angry. But they're great guys, and so they went and got some help with this particular group, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, and there are many others that we've donated to, but that's one that if you just want one off the top that you can go to. We also donated about $100,000 a few weeks ago. It was all a canine one where there's some of the dogs that come back from Afghanistan, the bomb sniffing dogs or the tunnel dogs and all this stuff, the combat dogs will come back, and they don't really have good homes to go to because they're war dogs. So the veterans that were also coming back from there, some of them have really been struggling. So there's some groups that we've put together that are putting those dogs with those veterans to kind of rehabilitate each other's. There's other ones. There's other canine one that's helping support animals for either veterans with missing limbs or needing And there's no shortage of
Right.
amazing groups out there doing
Absolutely.
amazing things for our country. And it's when I'm done with all of the donations, the complete $1 million, I'm gonna publish. I was publishing them one at a time. Every time we would do a donation, 100,000 here or 50,000 there, but it was like too many. People were getting confused. So I'm just gonna, when I'm done, I'm gonna have a list of all of them,
Right.
line itemed out with all their websites, so that anybody that wants to get involved with them can.
That's great. Gabler,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
you're just through and through like an amazing human being. We're so
I
happy
got
that,
you.
like, we're so happy that you were able to come on the podcast. You are
Yes,
the
thanks for
second
coming.
alumni that we've been interviewing. We had Brad Reese from 41.
Sweet.
I feel like you guys would get along great.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
I'm sure. I've never met him. I'm just a fan, just like you guys,
Yeah.
but he's pretty incredible.
Yeah. But we want to thank you. And I know Steven has, one more fun little question that he wants to end us off with. So Steven, ask the Gabler and then we'll sign you out, Gabler. We appreciate you.
Okay, awesome. So if you were given the opportunity and you were free the day that it was being played, would you ever play in a fan run in-person or online Survivor game?
I think I would. I actually joined one when I got back for the first time, because I met a guy and his daughter in the airport in LA when we got back from Fiji. Like literally, I went in LA, about to connect to Boise, just got back, literally just got back. And this like 10-year-old girl and her dad are walking through the airport, and the commercial had run about 2 weeks ago with the trailer for 43. And I was on it for just like a split second, right? Crawling through the mud. And this girl comes up to me with her dad, and the dad goes, "Pardon me, sir. Were you in Survivor?" And of course, we're not allowed to say anything to anybody. So I'm
Right.
just like, I can't say that, but clearly you guys are big fans of the show. And I kind of turned it around to them.
Uh-huh.
We started to, we took a picture of us,
Right.
and I was like, "Look, Dad, I can't give you this picture yet." I took a picture with my phone. I said, "But Dad, give me your email, and when the show airs and I'm allowed to, I'll send you this picture." And so I did that with him and his daughter and me. And then they run a Survivor League.
Very cool.
So we did it for the first time. I didn't do it in 43 because obviously I knew who was going to win that one. But I did it for 44 with their league, and it was super fun. I actually did have Yam to win.
Oh, like a
So,
fantasy draft. Okay,
Oh, fantasy draft. Okay.
yeah.
was that what you guys were asking?
Well, we were
No, like
talking about
so.
would you play like a live game, like how me and Steven met? Like it's just people, like we played in North Jersey and people from like North Carolina, New York, Pennsylvania. They came and it's like a fan run game. We played for 12 hours. We voted someone out every hour. Challenges. It's very realistic. It's just like the game. Would you play with fans? Because I feel
I'd give it a try, man. Life is short. Life is now. You got to live it. I'm up for
yeah.
anything, dude.
Because Gabler, we can go to the end one day. All right, we can go to the end one
Yep,
day.
yep.
I've never done that one, but that sounds interesting.
Yeah, no, they're super cool. But Gabler, like we said, we appreciate you, even reaching back out to us. This is something that we just do for fun, something that we just
Sure.
it's lighthearted, it's casual, it's cool. We were so happy that you said yes. You were at the tippy top of both of our lists for people that we wanted to talk to.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you guys for
Tribalize,
reaching
thank
out. That's what's so great about Survivors. We're all fans of the show. We love talking about it. It's
Mhm.
such a incredible. I've never seen anything like it, and it's just every season is different because every season is different people. And you could even do 43 again right now, and it would be different because people are. You never know what's going to go on. So I can't wait. I'm eager. Actually, I'm looking forward to the challenge. Watching the challenge because one of my old tribe mates, I think it's been public now. Cassidy's on it.
Yeah, I
Cassidy.
saw that. Yep.
Okay, it's been public. So she's going to be on that next month. So I'm going to watch her. She's pretty good at challenges. So we'll just have to see her.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. All right, well, Gabler, we hope that you enjoy 45. That's coming up soon. Hope you enjoy the challenge. I'm sure we're going to be tweeting at you back. We love watching on Twitter too, Twitter too. So thank you, Gabler. It's been great. It's been fun. And congratulations once again.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank you
so much,
much.
y'all. Appreciate you guys.